So I looked at yesterday's Do Now and noticed that a lot of scholars had a hard time with turning their fraction into a decimal and percent, and that's going to be a little challenging for us in our work this unit. So I wanted to make sure that we were very clear on how I can divide you or use division to turn a fraction to a decimal. So I'm going to start with just this row here, and hopefully this will clear things up for us. So when I see something like 7/8, I can read this as a division problem. This can also be described as 7 divided by 8. It's just also written with a fraction bar, 7. This is still 7 divided by 8. They're both the same type of expression. So I'm going to use long division to figure this out. And because my 7 is being divided, I'm going to put that in my long division bar. And have the 8 on the outside. If you have trouble, remember that. I also sometimes have kids just think, what if someone was knocking this over, my 7 would fall down into the house. And being that I want to divide to the thousands place, since it's written in the directions, I'm going to add a decimal and 3 zeros. And to help out with our place value, since that also seemed to be an issue, I'm going to try to remember that every number that's here, if I have 4 digits here, I need 4 digits up here. And where I see a decimal, it's also going to be in the same place. So that's going to help me preserve my place value and get it done correctly. I can't take any 8s from 7, so I'm just going to put a 0 there. I'm going to ignore this decimal for a second. 8 can go into 70, though, 8 times. And 8 times 8 is 64. I get a 6, bring down my 0. 8 goes into 67 times. 7 times 8 is 56. I get a 4 and I bring down my 0. And 8 can go into 40 5 times. 5 times 4 makes 40. And that makes a 0. So my decimal is very, very clearly 875 thousandths. So I'm going to put that in on the side, 875 thousandths. And if I was thinking about percents out of 100, so this is out of 1,000. If I go just to the hundreds place, 87 hundredths, well, percent is out of 100, so this is the same as 87%. If you had just put in, if anyone had also just put in, but I actually have a full number, 875 thousandths, that 5 actually matters. If I've had some students actually write down 87.5%, and I actually accept this as more valuable. So I'm just going to go back to this for a second. Because I want to go to the hundreds place, I have to consider this 5. And I have to think, well, what is this closest to with this 5? I want to go to the nearest hundreds. And I'm actually going to round this up. This is closer to 88 hundredths. So I'm actually going to change this to 88%. I would have taken either one of these two answers. So I hope that makes that clear for the first one. Second one, same thing. I'm going to read this as 5 divided by 6. So I'm going to write 5 being divided by 6. And again, go to the thousandths place. If you're not sure if your multiplication, just continue working on that because I'm going to go pretty fast here. I can't take 6 from 5, but I can go 6 goes into 58 times. It's 48. Minus 2, bring down to 0. 20 gets divided by 6 3 times. That's 18. And 20 gets divided by 6 3 times. And that's also 18. I could stop there. I'm not going to put remainder 2 or anything up there. I'm going to stop at 0.833 thousandths. Same thing as before. I want to go to the nearest hundredths place for a percent. You could just move your decimal 2 times and do 83.3%, or you can round to the nearest hundredths place. So, is this closer to 83 or 84? Well, there's a 3 in the hundredths place. I'm going to round down to 83%. Okay. If you're still getting stuck on the steps of it, some kids like to think of that, like saying the mnemonics, like dead monkeys smell bad. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring it down. You could also use that type of mnemonic. And I'm going to use that for this one. This one I have 7 divided by 3. Still going to the thousandths place. So I'm going to divide first. 7 divided by 3, that's 2. Multiply, 2 times 3 is 6. Bring down the next one, 10. 10 divided by 3 is 3. Multiply, 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, bring down my next 0. Divide, 10 divided by 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. I get a 1. Bring down the next 10. 10 divided by 3 is 3. Same steps again. But since I'm at the thousands place, I'm going to stop here. So my decimal is 2 and 333 thousandths. It's just being repeated. So what would this be as a decimal? I could move my decimal 2 times, 1, 2, and get 233.3%. Or again, to the nearest hundredths. So I have 33 hundredths, yes, going down. So it's still 233%. And that makes sense because I definitely have more than one whole here. I have more than 100%. I actually have 200%. And the last one, 9 divided by 12, same steps. I'm still going to the thousands place. 90 divided by 12, 7 times. Let's multiply 84. Subtract 6, bring down a 0. 12 goes into 6 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60. And I just have another 0. So I could just simplify this as 75 hundredths. And I can move my decimal 2 times if I want to, 75%. Or it's still 75 out of 175%. So I hope that kind of clears it up because this is a skill that we will need in 7th grade. So on Friday we had a unit 2 exam and we're trying to figure out percent change and how to use proportions or even multiplying with decimals to solve these problems out. So we're going to start with at least the multiple choice questions 1 through 10, not doing number 9, so we can examine our errors. So in the first one we want to know, Tom buys a sweater for $30. In which city will it be the least expensive? So here are the cities and he has to pay a tax. And I know that it's going to be the cost of the sweater plus the tax. So whatever the sweater costs, which is $30, I'm going to add a sales tax. Now looking at these choices, it makes sense that because the $30 for the sweater doesn't change, I want to choose the city that has the least amount of tax. And in this case, the one that has the least amount of tax is city C. So I know that's going to be the least amount I'm going to add to the cost here. Because the 30 is staying the same for all of them. It's only the tax that's different for each city. So I'm going to choose choice C. In this one, Tom has his $30 sweater. How much will it cost in city B? So I know, again, it's going to be the cost of the sweater plus the tax. In city B, his tax is 4.1%. And we looked at 2 different ways we can solve this. So I could just figure out what is the 4% and then add it to the 30. Okay, so I could do this if I wanted to change the original amount, $30, and I can do 4.1 out of 100 and use my cross multiplying. That's one way of solving it. So if I cross multiplied 4.1 times 30, 3, 12, can't move my decimal over once, so I'm getting 123 is equal to 100x. I want to isolate my variable, my x, and get it by itself by dividing by 100 because I want to break them up. And this I don't even need a calculator for. I know I'm going to shift my decimal twice. So I'm going to get $1.23. So that's my tax. And remember I said I can add this to the tax and I will get $31.23. I'm adding the sales tax to it. And that is a choice. Another way I could have solved this was just to figure out what is this 4.1%. Well, what if I wanted this plus the 100%? So look at my idea. I know that the $30 represents 100%. And what if I wanted to add the tax, the 4.1%? Well, then I know I'm really going to figure out what is 104.1% of my whole number. So I can do that. I can just do 30 times, now I want to turn 104.1% into a decimal. I'm going to move my decimal twice. So I could just do 30 times 1.041% on a calculator. And if I do that on a calculator, I also get $31.23. That's just another way of having a calculator. Not everyone does them. In question 3, I have the town was 250,000. I know that's my original amount. And then 3,200 people moved away. That's my change. And I want to know what the percent decrease was. So I know change over original is equal to percent out of 100. Okay, so I could do 3,200 divided by 25,000 is equal, I want to know what the change is, over the original. That's one way I can solve it. Another way I could solve it is to figure out, well, I see what my change is. I know I'm going to have to cross multiply here. Well, I'm going to do a cross multiplying. I'm going to get 3,200 plus 2 zeros is equal to 25,000x. And when I divide by 25,000, and I'm going to spare you the long division, I'm actually going to get 12.8. And you can check over your calculator if you actually want to do the division out to actually see what the number is. I know these are challenging. For number 3, my membership went from 6,400, that's my original amount, to 84,000. This is my new amount. But I want to know how much did it increase. So again, if I'm using this type of formula, change over the original. So I know it used to be 64,000. It went up to 8,400, so it went up 2,000. And I can figure out x over 100. So again, I'm setting up with my cross multiplying. 20,000 times 100, so I'm going to add 2 more zeros, is equal to 6,400x. And I know eventually I'm going to have to divide this by 6,400 to figure out my x. Okay? So but when I'm looking at my question, they're just telling me what expression could I use to find out the increase. I see it right here. I could just do my 2,000 divided by 6,400. Because there's nothing in here that's telling me to cross multiply. None of my answers here match this answer here, the 200,000 divided by 6,400. But I do actually see the simplified version, 2,000 being divided by 6,400. So unfortunately, if I don't see my work here, I can look at the step before to see what matches my expression. And the last one, I want to know what's the markup. So just thinking about the up, I know my change is increasing somehow. So I'm going to pick A. It's a percent of the increase. It's definitely not the retail price. That would be the original price. And it's not about the discount, because a discount would be a change going down. And at least you have the first 5 answers from the quiz. You'll see questions 6 through 10 in the next video.